So this very special episode is going to be in English, but we're going to have subtitles. Esse episódio vai ser muito especial. Vai ser com o meu professor e fundador do Berkeley Executive Coaching Institute, Dr. Mark Rittenberg. Vamos fazer em inglês e vamos ter aqui as legendas. Acompanhem e espero que vocês sejam tão inspirados quanto eu sou por ele. Instead of bringing an executive as I usually do, today I have the honor of having Dr. Mark Rittenberg from Berkeley. Dr. Mark is a specialist in leadership communications, helping individuals and teams unleash their full potential. He utilizes acting and music skills to help leaders achieve their leadership presence. I'm very honored. For me, it's like having a celebrity here.
Oh my God.
Dr. Mark is in Brazil doing some work with Fundação Dom Cabral and some other institutions as well. And I was very lucky to sit with him for breakfast last week and invited him to be here, and he accepted. Dr. Mark, thank you very much.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure.
And Dr. Mark gave me today, as a gift, a tangerine, without knowing that the name of my company was a tangerine.
No idea. I
Yes.
saw these beautiful tangerines peeled, and I said, oh my God, they actually have peeled them for us. So I'll bring one for Adriana. I'll bring one for myself, and we won't eat bad food today.
It is a sign. It is a sign. So, Dr. Mark, welcome here.
Thank you.
Who is Dr. Mark? Tell our public a little bit. Who are you?
Who am I
Yes.
right now? Who was I? How have I been?
How would you define yourself?
Yes, I am. Well, first of all, I'm a professor at the Haas School of Business, University of California at Berkeley, which is a unusual business school. I mean, it's in the top 10, but it's an unusual business school because it's created an extraordinary culture. I'm not aware of other business schools that's created a culture based on 4 defining principles: confidence without attitude, students always, beyond yourself, and question the status quo. And our dean, Rich Lyons, who's now the chancellor, mandated that all those ideas are to be part of every class. It doesn't matter if you're teaching economics or statistics or leadership communications. He wants to feel the presence of those values in every class. So confidence without attitude is really the Dalai Lama's formula for humility. Can you be humble? Can you be humble about your gifts and talents? Can you be humble about sharing those gifts and talents and leave your ego at the door?
Love it.
Students always is, I have students in their 80s in the MBA program. And my godmother is such a good example. She passed away 3 years ago. But I remember on her 90th birthday, we wanted to take her, my wife and myself, wanted to take her out to her favorite restaurant in San Francisco. And I said, what's the date? She said, honey, I'm sorry, but I'm really not free for 6 weeks. At 90, what are you doing? Is it doctor's appointment? She said, I'm totally fine. She says, I'm taking classes. I said, taking classes? She said, yes, what's wrong with that? I said, nothing. She says, I'm never giving up. I love learning, and I'm 90. So students always, major principle at UC Berkeley. Beyond yourself is very important because at Berkeley, it's really about what have you done for other people? What are you doing for other people? And because I was a young boy growing up in Berkeley, who was the most famous man in the world in 1962? I just want to see if you're a youngster, but see if you can name who was most famous man in the world in 1962. For us, it was President Kennedy.
Okay.
Okay. And every year, because UC Berkeley is the mother campus of about 12 different campuses, UCLA, Irvine, San Diego, but Berkeley is the jewel.
Really? I didn't know.
The mother campus, the oldest one, over 200 years old. And today, President Kennedy was coming to rededicate the UC charter. And I'm there with my mother and my grandmother and my aunt, and we're on University Avenue. And it's interesting because I know you have a connection to Dallas. And this beautiful black car is coming down University Avenue with this handsome president, his beautiful wife, everybody waving, everybody excited. And we walk up to a place called the Greek Theater, which is the gathering place at the top of the campus. And he comes onto the stage and the crowd is on fire. They are like screaming. And he opens the speech with saying, "Ladies and gentlemen, we are here." And for 20 minutes, the crowd goes completely crazy. My mother's hugging a stranger. She's a very shy woman. I said, "Mommy, who's that man?" "I don't know." "Why are you hugging him?" "I don't know." And the next thing he said was, "And this is our moment. And this is our moment." Another 20 minutes. And I remember the last thing was, "And we will build a new world together." And everyone's out of their seats, rushing the stage, Secret Service going crazy. And the crowd is chanting, "4 more years, 4 more years, 4 more years." Well, it didn't go that way because our lives changed on one day in Dallas, Texas, November 22nd, 1963, where our lives changed forever when the president was assassinated. But I will never forget the words of the famous speech where he spoke about, "Ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country." There's another part of that speech, which is often not spoken. The other part of that speech is, stop asking what the world should be doing for you. What can you do for the world? I was 11. I have never, it's more than 50 years ago, never forgotten those words. Stop asking what the world should be doing for you. What can you do for the world? And that was a very early teacher, influencer, mentor of mine. Hearing President Kennedy say those words, I always thought about, what am I going to do for the world? How am I going to make a difference?
What is it now, coming back to the work we do today,
Yes.
using everything that
Yeah.
that you've learned in your
Yeah.
stories? You've been coach and professor to so many executives and leaders and C-levels and
Hundreds, thousands, yeah.
C-suites. What is a common blind spot that these leaders have that you help them understand?
They live in their heads. They live in their heads. And the reason why Berkeley is such a special place is because we are interested in the mind and the heart of the leader. And it was our Dean, Rich Lyons, who's now chancellor, and I was one of the people who nominated him. Rich basically had an idea that a business school needs a culture. And so at the opening orientation, he said, we care about the mind and the heart of the leader. We want great economists, great math people. We want venture capitalists. He said, but have you remembered to be a human being? Have you remembered what it means to be a human being? And these two guys put up their hands and said, Dean Lyons, I appreciate that, but I really could use a bit more work in math and so forth. Could I replace the leadership classes with a couple of math classes? Sure, do whatever you like, but you won't get your MBA. And they said, why? He said, because I'm interested in kindness. I'm interested in compassion. I'm interested in empathy. And he's really full of fire. He says, and I've had quite enough of hearing students, gorgeous students, saying, I'm working in a toxic culture. I'm working in a culture of poison. He said, there's no need for that. That's a choice to be a leader who brings poison, who brings toxicity to it. What about kindness? Yes.
That's what I experienced. So just to share a little bit, I did my coaching certification at Berkeley, and I had in September 22, I was at Berkeley for 10 days going through a program, and I'm going to ask Mark to tell us a little bit how that coaching program came about. But that was the best learning, the most transformative learning experience of my life.
Why? Because I wasn't there for the whole time.
Yes, and I'm realizing now that that's why, because it gives us permission to be humans. It gives us permission to not just be professionals.
Yep.
I was a C-level C-suite executive at the time,
Yep.
and the connection between mind and heart.
Yeah, and the heart of the leader.
Yeah, but it was so transformative. It was 10 days where at the end of the 10 days, the group was so united and so close to it. Many lives were changed. I came back I retired from my corporate career and I started my coaching business.
You are amazing.
It transformed my life. So what you brought to an MBA class was something they never expected, that made them find themselves.
That's right.
Right?
That's exactly right. And what I'd like to do is to tell how the coaching, if it's important, how the coaching institute came to be.
Yes, please.
If that's...
Yes, that's fantastic, because that's my profession. That's where I graduated, and that's where I had this transformation in my life. So tell me how you went from bringing that leadership communications class to the MBA students to founding Berkeley Executive Coaching Institute.
Very simple. Okay. In 2008, they weren't my partners yet. I said, I have a theory about coaching, and coaching needs to be human. I don't like what's on the market. I don't like it. Looks like a therapy session. I can't bear the way people ask questions. May I give you some feedback? I hate that kind of shit. I hate anything that's hackneyed, that's scripted, etc. I cut my teeth on coaching with two major football players of the San Francisco 49ers, who were twice my size, if you can imagine. Huge. And they both had done their knees in, and they were 39 and needed to start a business. And I coached them towards starting a business. And I could tell that they wanted me to really go for it with their mental blocks. So I had this one guy named Fred who said, I don't know that I have the confidence to start a business. And I don't know where this came from. I said, well, what else don't you have the confidence to do? Why don't you just give up your life at 39? Well, Mark, that's not a very nice thing to say. I said, well, I don't see anything happening. So what are we going to do? Open a donut store? Hot dog stand? The famous football player? The famous quarterback? Come on. What's happening here? He says, I don't know what you want from me. I said, I want ideas, and I'm not going to give them to you. Your ideas, baby. You are a famous football player. And what are you going to do for the rest of your life? He says, I'm going to find something that really is good for people. I said, good. Now we're getting somewhere.
Yes.
So that was where I started. So in 2008, some bug got into my head, because I really am very childish. I mean, my son says, you're a child. You're a 74-year-old child. I mean, when I was playing with my grandson late at night, I told you the story, right? That we're doing a puzzle, and it's 11 o'clock at night, and my son comes down the passage, my ESPN son, and he says, what's wrong with you? I said, what are you talking about? He said, he is 7. It's 11 o'clock at night, and there's his grandfather doing a puzzle with him. I said, yeah, we can sleep late on Saturday. He says, you're dead. Sometimes I just wonder who is the child in this relationship. I said, right here. I don't want a child. I want a father. I said, too bad. You get the one that you got. I'm doing my best. So I said to my partners, different people in Dory at that time, I want to do a coaching institute. Don't do it. It's 2008. It's the recession. No one's going to come. You're going to lose your shirt. I said, I need to do a coaching institute because I have a methodology that I believe can make a huge difference for humankind. It's going to have strength. It's going to have art in it. It's going to have modalities. It's going to, in fact, be completely unorthodox. One size doesn't fit all. It's going to be amazing. Please don't do it. And I said, well, I am doing it. And whether you're with me or not, it doesn't really matter at this stage. They said, well, just know that no one's going to come because there's no money in the world right now. Well, 17 people came. And I did it for 2 weeks at the Claremont Hotel. Did you ever go to Claremont?
Yes.
Big white hotel. And I happened to be friends with the food and beverage guy, a Filipino guy, a lovely guy. And he gave me rooms for $50 a room, meaning working spaces. I was able to do it. And it was a wonderful experience. And people really learned. And in fact, the first coach I ever certified was now 83, who's still one of the best coaches that we have, was in that group, Don Borges. Okay.
I've met him.
But hey,
I have met him.
You met him. And so I'm now done. But not according to Doy and not according to Susan. They said, we want to do this. I said, I don't. I'm done.
Oh, you just meant to do that first.
I'm done.
One and only.
They said, You don't know what you have. You don't know what's going on. We want to do it. We want to be certified. We want this to be our life work. I said, oh, you're so silly. I said, your life work, you got an MBA, go work at Moody's, man. Go work at Cisco. Go work at Apple. They said, we don't want to do that. We want to work with you. And I said, and you cannot, because I'm 59. You can't do it. I look after my wife and my son and my grandchildren, and that's it. They said, we'll create work that will benefit you and us, and you won't have to worry. I said, okay, but just know. And Jenny Herbert Creek was great because she was my partner in crime. And she said in that very Jenny way, and Mark won't be paying you. So just know that, because I take care of his business. And she was, she said, there'll be no money. I said, great. So it's that they created the Coaching Institute, and Jenny Kalashu, your buddy, became the maven of the whole thing. And online and in person, and suddenly we're doing one in Thailand, and suddenly we're doing
Italy
and all over.
Now Japan, and
have,
hopefully Brazil.
And they are in the 51st cohort. So I did one, they've done 50, and it's unstoppable. We have created I believe that we've taken the whole concept of the mind and the heart of the leader into the mind and the heart of the coach. And what we do with Berkeley Executive Coaching Institute, we create coaches who are human, coaches that are not by the book, coaches that are not following a script. Anything scripted academically, anything scripted is completely uninteresting to me. I want original work. I believe one size doesn't fit all. Why are you working with this woman in that way? So I did a coaching session last night in the HR group, and this woman comes and says, I'm lost, and I just would love to be able to find a way to create community within my team. Help me. I said, well, all I can do is say, what do you want to do? That's why I'm asking you. I said, wrong question. Who are they? And how do you want to create the future? She said, well, they're a different generation than me. I said, okay, so they're different. And all of you are a different generation than me. I'm the oldest person. So where do we start? She said, I don't know. I said, it's okay. Take out your paper. What would you like to drink? I'll go get us a drink. And you write down every radical idea, how you might get through to the new generation. There's no stupid ideas with Mark Rittenberg. You write it all down. By the time I came back with our drinks, she had 14 ideas. And then she said, and then she starts to cry. And she says, this one right here, I'm going to try out tomorrow. I said, and what's this? She says, I'm going to do 3 one-on-ones and ask people what would be their ideal workplace with me as the leader. I said, that's brilliant. I said, and then what are you going to do with the material? I don't know. No, you have to know. What are you going to do with the material? She says, I'm going to put it all down and see if there's a theme there. And then if that works, then I'll meet the next 3. How are you feeling, Renata? I'm feeling so great. I was so lost 10 minutes ago. Now I feel hope. It gives me this big, big hug. And that's Berkeley Executive Coaching.
Yes.
When you can find the tipping point. And again, I work more with men than women because I'm not afraid of their masculinity. I'm not afraid of any of it. It basically has to do with your team doesn't trust you. And I have the data right here. What do you want to do about it? I guess there's nothing to do. I said, well, then let's just go have a drink. Yeah. There's nothing to do. And you'll just have a broken team for the rest of your life. And one day, I suppose you'll be fired. I'd vote for your firing, by the way.
One thing that inspired everything that you talk about, for me, this is magic. This is magic. This is a magical moment, being able to hear all these stories. So you mentioned that the BECI, the Coaching Institute, that transformed my life.
Yeah.
I think that's also very inspiring and courageous, that the work that changed my life and gave me a new career, a new profession started at your 57 years old.
57.
Right? When you were 57, like I'm 47, there's so much impact that I can still bring. There's so much that
You're
I
so
can still do.
young.
I'm starting my new career now.
Oh,
And that
that's
for me
right.
is inspiring. I have clients, coaching clients who come here and say, oh, I'm 40. My life is done. My career is done. No, I love
Just
this.
beginning.
Always a student. Always a student. Always
Students
reading.
always.
Students always.
Yeah.
I love that, and I want to mention that, like, at 57, Mark and his peers and
Yep.
Jenny and Don started the work that changed me and my career and so many hundreds of other people as well. Like, there's so much that we can do in our lifetime, and I think that gives me a lot of motivation to keep going.
And so much good.
Yes, so much
you
good
can do. There's so
to
much good.
others and to the world.
Yes.
Yes.
And moving into the world stage of, I was reading last night very late when I got back. I went right to sleep like for 5 hours. And then I got up and I started to read these writings of the Dalai Lama. And if one would just study the Dalai Lama, one will be complete. What he has to say about life and about human relationships. I actually read for 2 hours. I couldn't get over it.
You don't stop.
I don't stop.
You are unstoppable. You woke up in the middle of the night, you were reading on the Dalai Lama.
Well, I had 5 hours and then I had another 5 hours. So I just figured what my kids always says, Daddy, you sleep incrementally. I figured I had 10 hours. But what was so amazing, just one last little story, because the Dalai Lama did have an effect on me. He was speaking at Stanford, and Stanford's 40 minutes from Berkeley, and you're going to plan the traffic because it's all the way down. So we know he's going to speak at 4, and so we leave at 2, and then we said we'll meet some friends after his speech and have dinner, and then the traffic will be gone. So we go there. We're in the stadium, 3rd row, and this is it was about 2007. He comes out just with this glow. And he says, ladies and gentlemen, esteemed, directors and board of directors, Stanford University, ladies and gentlemen, I bring you the gift of peace. He said, my speech is very short. Whether you're male or female, black or white, old or young, gay or straight, it doesn't matter. He said, I love you all because you need to know you only have one purpose on the planet, and that is to be of service to the other. If what I have said is useful, you might want to write that down. And if I said what's useless, why don't you simply forget it? But before you make that decision, turn to your neighbor on your left and your right, behind you, in front of you, and all around you, and just share. When have you been involved in the act of service? And we start talking to these strangers in the stadium. Floods of tears. It's now 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock. We've canceled the dinner. It was the power of human connection. Total strangers are in my arms. It was like a love revolution. Stanford aren't any feelings. Stanford's, big money and feelings.
Thank you for coming. Thank you for being here. I will be there tomorrow with you.
Thank you so much.
To support you. This was the very special episode with Dr. Mark Rittenberg. I'm so excited. We could not end this conversation because I want to hear more and more stories. I hope it touches your heart. I hope it gives you a desire to be more of not only your mind, but also your heart, to bring your humanity to everything you do, to be authentic leaders, to be leaders that care about leaving an impact on others. This is very inspiring to me. I hope it is to you too. Dr. Mark, thank you so much for being here.
Obrigado.
And I'll see you soon, hopefully many times in Brazil. Bye.